Tonight, ready for battle. For the third time since Governor Cuomo signed strict new gun control measures into law, thousands of firearms rights advocates descended on the state capitol to voice their opposition. They are calling for repeal of the so-called SAFE Act and targeting Cuomo for muscling it through the legislature. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association President Tom King is my guest, plus Assemblywoman Michelle Schimmel, a Long Island Democrat and longtime gun control advocate, joins me to present the other side of this controversial issue. That's all coming up as Capitol Tonight starts right now. Good evening and welcome to this Thursday edition of Capitol Tonight. I'm Liz Benjamin. 6 weeks or so have passed since Governor Cuomo signed the Secure Ammunition and Firearms Enforcement Act of 2013, otherwise known as the SAFE Act. He signed it into law. And passionate opposition to the measure, which gave New York the strictest gun control regulations in the nation, has not cooled with the passage of time. If anything, gun rights advocates have grown even more angry with the governor now that parts of the new law have taken effect. These Second Amendment defenders have not given up on their call for the full repeal of the SAFE Act, even though at this point it is quite clear that that is all but an impossible quest. Even if a repeal were to make it through both houses of the legislature, an uphill climb in and of itself, given the Democrat dominance in the state assembly, there really is simply no way that Cuomo would be willing to undo such a high-profile law that garnered him so much national attention in the early wake of the Newtown massacre. So the online petitions and the public demonstrations, like the one that drew thousands of pro-gun New Yorkers to Albany today, those are pretty much largely symbolic, a way for people infuriated by the SAFE Act, not to mention the way it was enacted, can vent their frustrations and make their displeasure heard. Now, that does not mean that the gun control debate is over in New York. There is still the possibility of amendments to the law, which even some lawmakers who voted in favor of it are now admitting is less than perfect. And there is also the possibility that the courts will side with those who argue that the SAFE Act is in fact unconstitutional and overturn part, or maybe even all of it. Several legal challenges to the act have already been filed, and yet another is in the works. I'll be talking to New York State Rifle and Pistol Association President Tom King about that in a few minutes. But first, Nick Reisman is kicking us off tonight with a report on today's rally, which King's Association organized.
It was the third rally to be held in Albany since Governor Andrew Cuomo's sweeping gun control legislation passed more than a month ago, and it was by far the largest. Opponents say they're pushing for a full repeal of a law that's become a flashpoint for gun rights advocates across the country.
Well, I think New York has become the poster child for how not to adopt legislation. As we know, the governor designed this in the dark of night, rammed it through the legislature, and then everybody said, oh my God, what have we passed?
But overturning a law in the legislature is highly unlikely, due in part to the large Democratic majority in the Assembly. Republican lawmakers say they're hoping the courts will overturn the measure.
It's an uphill battle. It was 43 to 18 in the state Senate. It's going to be tough to turn around enough votes to go repeal it, and I wouldn't expect the governor to ever sign such a repeal bill.
Some state lawmakers and Governor Cuomo have said that chapter amendments or changes to the law that will fix minor technical corrections to the measure are on the way, but they are yet to materialize.
I want to make sure, and I certainly won't support wholesale amendments to this bill to change the intent, but there are probably some technical amendments that I can support.
Cuomo was not at the Capitol for the gun rally, which state police estimate drew more than 5,000 people, though organizers say at least 10,000 people came to the event. In New York City, Cuomo acknowledged that the gun control issue remains a passionate one.
It's politically controversial. About 70% of the people in the state support gun control. 30% don't, and 30% feel very strongly about it. So that's the nature of the issue.
Gun rights advocates hope a court challenge filed recently by the New York Rifle and Pistol Association is their best chance of turning back the gun control law, but Republican State Senator Kathy Marchione has also filed her own bill that would overturn major provisions of the SAFE Act. In Albany, Nick Reisman, Capitol Tonight.
Joining us to talk more